So the efficacy of a generic brand has not at all, does not have your confidence?
Well, if I may say
You do
so.
not trust the integrity of the efficacy as determined by BIFAD?
We do.
We do.
The generics, the 28 pesos that she was
Whether
talking
it's-
about against 70 and against the 120 branded.
Whether it's generic or branded, so long as it passes through the BFAD, it goes through the regular testing, laboratory testing, etc. And when they say that it's both approved, then it has theoretically the same efficacy and safety that any other drug would have.
Where is your discomfort, doctor?
We receive complaint from government doctors, especially from San Lazaro, that when they prescribe generic antibiotics for their patients in San Lazaro, 7 days na, hindi pa gumagaling. The time for them to change the antibiotic, after 2 days, when they change the antibiotic, gumagaling yung pasyente. Ang problema natin dito ay, paano natin masasabi na lahat ng generic drugs ay magagaling? For us doctors, let the patient choose generic drugs or brand names. Pero yung alisin mo yung informed choice na galing sa doktor ko ng brand name, parang hindi naman ata maganda.
Hindi, kung masama rin yung generic, bakit mo pa isasali yung generic? Kung sinasabi mo, you do not actually trust the efficacy of the generic brands and you just want to give them a choice because you want to comply the law, pero you have had this experience na 7 days na binibigyan ng antibiotics sa generic hindi pa gumagaling, and the branded, can you strike it out as a doctor? Do you have a right as a doctor to just tell the patient, alam mo, hindi ako naniniwala dito sa generics, hindi ko na ito isasali, ito lang ang kunin mo because ito sigurado ako nagagaling ka. Can you say that, no?
For us to be released from the responsibility. Just in case na
Will
nagpumilit
you
siya.
at some point say that?
Of course, pag sinabi niya na ayaw niya talaga ng branded dahil mahal, kung ano man mangyari sa bata, mabuting, there must be a proper communication with the doctor and the patient.
So anong
Explain
sasabihin
niya.
mo? Anong accountability mo pag hindi gumaling yung pasyente mo na inexplain mo ng maayos na ito, kung ito lang ang kaya mo generics, pero ikaw ang mananagot sa sarili mong sitwasyon.
Kalimitan ng sitwasyon nag-a-arise, medical malpractice or any form of complaint, pag walang communication ng doctor and patient. Nagkakaroon ng misunderstanding pag walang paliwanagan. Dapat ipaliwanag sa pasyente na itong inireseta ko sa'yo, andito yung generic name, andito rin yung brand name. Kung sa palagay mo, hindi mo kaya, itry natin yung generic. At kung sakaling hindi gumaling, bumili ka ng branded. Pero kung sakasakali na talagang sabihin natin na walang kakayanan ng BIPAD to monitor generic drug, generic companies and generic drug itself, ay wag namang masisi sa doktor just in case na hindi gumaling yung pasyente. Hindi lang
Let me add, let me explain somehow. I think, Tina, the problem is, nagkaroon ng misconception na when we talk about counterfeit drugs or the low-dosage drugs, the fly-by-night suppliers, yung mga umiikot.
Generic yun.
Sinasabi na generic kaagad yun. Hindi naman po. We have the good generics, the real generic
And the
drugs.
counterfeit.
And we have the counterfeit drugs, which is, hindi naman talaga siya fake, pero underdosed yung active ingredient. Now, the issue of why is it existing? Simply because we have very expensive medicines. We allow them to thrive because the people will have the option to look for something cheaper. On the other hand, if we reduce the cost of medicines, mawawala yung mga ito. Now, allow me to inform Dr. Sabili, it was tackled several times in the committee hearings. This law, in case if it will be adopted in toto, will not be applicable immediately. There is a 1-year leeway wherein it will give DOH and BIFAD the time to strengthen itself with the corresponding appropriation and with the corresponding option to retain their income so as to use that to strengthen BIFAD and go all over the country to determine, tingnan nila yung mga pharmacies. Kasi kasama sa pagpasa ng panukalang batas na ito, yung paglalagay, like in this pharmacy, you put the generic name and all the available generics and the available brands plus their corresponding prices. So it is not taking away the rights of the doctor to treat their patient. It is actually a good communication and we are giving, yun po yung totoong patient's choice. The doctor may take in or refuse a patient just as the patient may take in or refuse a doctor's advice or prescription. Now, nagkaroon kasi ng misconception pagka hindi umi-epekto or peking gamot, generic ka agad. Hindi naman po, no? Recently, I read this on the news and I saw it on TV. And the BFED gave a 2-week deadline for the immediate recall of Lumiracoxib. There's a brand name and there's the generic name and the brand name is Prexige, which is produced by Novartis. And this is a branded drug being prescribed by many doctors. It was prescribed for rheumatism, post-operative
And you're saying
pain.
that it's being recalled by BIFAD?
Yes.
There is an order to recall it, and it says immediate recalling of all available medicines, tablets in the market within 2 weeks.
So your
Bakit
point is
po?
there are also branded
Yes.
drugs that can be recalled by BIFAD?
Yes, and in this case, this is a drug that is being prescribed to post-op patients by your doctors.
Okay, let's get out of that issue for a while and go to the trade component of this cheaper. Is it going to be cheaper? And what will make this cheaper?
Well, the main feature of the bill is the intellectual property component, which
Okay.
allows the parallel importation, which both committees have, both houses have.
This
So-
is the parallel importation of branded.
Yes, the bills now state that for so long as a drug is offered in another country, it may be offered immediately here, even though there is still an existing trademark or patent rights. It may be offered here. Therefore, this creates a pressure on the exclusive distributor here, no, on the Philippine company here, to lower its prices because we have enough statistics to show us that they're selling 3 times, 5 times, 10 times higher than our neighboring countries. So ideally, what we're trying to do is create an open market so that the exclusive distributors on their own, now I'm sure they want to have the business anyway, will have competition and will bring down the prices. Now, that to me personally is what I would prefer that we focus on for a couple of reasons. One being, we've also had parallel hearings on the strengthening of the Bureau of Food and Drugs. Now, it's a separate bill altogether. And in that hearing, it was very clear that BFAD, for the longest time, has been extremely under budgeted. Every year we lobby for more budget. Every year they lobby for either retention or just giving them back a chunk of the income they earn. To register a drug which earns millions and millions of pesos, you know how much the registration fee is? 2,000, 5,000, something like that. And 10 pieces of that drug will cost 5,000. Why not charge 500,000 for the branded drugs, which you can see their income statement, how much they're making. I mean, things like that. So I actually kind of got mad at BFAD and said, you know, you have to be proactive about also increasing your budget to the extent na kaya nyo, and then legislation-wise will come in also. So what I personally would like to see is that any increase in budget would first go to strengthening BFAD to support the regulatory agency to prevent the fear na may fake drugs, you know. I mean, it's a valid concern,
This
no?
is for both generic and for branded.
Well, because we're opening the door to parallel importation, I'm being realistic and say let's ensure that that fear does not materialize. Instead of now saying that let's ipagbawal natin sa mga doktor na mag-prescribe sila, therefore open to all generics, I do believe, and this is from the hearings that I've chaired, that BFAD themselves have told us time and again that they have 3 BFAD inspectors for the whole of Cebu City. 3. I mean, something like that. No, that's not the actual figure. They have like 10 for the entire Manila. So I totally agree that this is the solution. Strengthen BFAD, increase budget, but it won't happen overnight. And I think a year might be short.
Okay.
So that's my thing. I'm all for this, but it has to be timed well.
So you're focusing on the intellectual property,
Yes.
right?
And I do believe, again, I've spoken to academe people, you know, other doctors, that there are other solutions. One, let me say, when BFAD allows the registration of drugs, so it's allowed, so it's out in the market, walang follow through yun. So the second, third batches, they tell us in our hearings that wala kaming capability right now na irregular testing yon. So that's why I also agree with Yusek Padilla na sabay yan. Kasi otherwise, sabay-sabay dadagsa yung parallel imported drugs and then yung generic na
Walang
hindi natin.
follow-through na checks.
Testing.
Na testing.
Oo. So I want to
one-time
see,
lang.
I mean, I am an idealist, but I also need to be pragmatic. Na let's be careful as we open the gates to fair competition, to the influx of, I'm all for the cheaper drugs. That's why we pushed for this bill. Pero kaya that's why kami, hiniwalay namin kasi iba-ibang issues to eh.
Okay. Yung Drug Regulatory Board, that is common. And how is that going to bother the doctors?
It's not common.